began on a Tuesday. Every satellite orbiting Earth, every deep space array, every civilian telescope, and even the smallest amateur backyard receiver caught the same signal, a pulse, repeating once every 13 seconds. It wasn't in any known language, but it was mathematical. Perfect, intentional. Governments scrambled. NASA, ESA, CNSA, and even SpaceX joined forces overnight. AI decoders worked on the pulse. It took 11 hours. The translation shocked the world. You are summoned. The Council awaits. Earth's delegation at Citadel Prime. You have 9 solar rotations to comply. 9 days. The message repeated in every major language. Phones buzzed. TVs flickered. Billboards changed. The skies above the Pacific lit up as a massive, holographic sigil formed in orbit, not a weapon, but a sign. Earth had been noticed. In a moment of rare unity, the UN held an emergency session. Old enemies sat at the same table. For once, nuclear powers didn't argue over weapons, but over who should represent humanity. But it wasn't just governments who reacted. People felt it in their bones. Some were terrified, others thrilled. Conspiracy theorists declared themselves vindicated. Religious leaders called it divine. Internet memes exploded. Still, beneath it all, one thing was clear. Earth had just been drafted into a much larger game. Information trickled in from the signal. The Council was not a myth. It had existed for over 600,000 years. Dozens, maybe hundreds of alien civilizations were members. They had formed a centralized authority that controlled trade, borders, law, and even war across sectors of the galaxy. And Earth? Earth had finally become loud enough to be noticed. They weren't inviting us. They were ordering us. Failure to attend will be considered a declaration of defiance. The consequences will be yours. In the end, a team of 6 was chosen. A mix of nations, backgrounds, and expertise. Dr. Ria Malhotra, quantum physicist. General Elias Ward, military strategist. Ambassador Layla Chen, diplomat. Dr. Omar Mensa, historian. Captain Hanna Sokolov, pilot. A-Unit Prometheus. Earth's most advanced artificial intelligence uploaded into a humanoid shell. The Council had sent coordinates. Far beyond Pluto, a wormhole had opened, stable and waiting. With barely time to prepare, the delegation launched from an orbital station. Aboard the prototype vessel, the Endeavour. The Earth watched as the ship disappeared into the anomaly. No one knew what waited on the other side, but humanity had just stepped onto the galactic stage. Citadel Prime wasn't a station. It was a monument, carved into the inner rings of a slowly dying gas giant. The Galactic Council's seat of power floated in orbit like a jewel, embedded in a dying crown. Its structure pulsed with energy, not lights, but something more ancient. The Citadel looked less like a creation and more like a discovery. It had existed long before most of its current occupants were born, and some believed before even their species had walked. As the Endeavour exited the wormhole, Earth's delegation got their first view of the Council's domain. Even General Ward, the most stoic of the 6, exhaled softly. Jesus, he muttered. Dr. Ria Malhotra adjusted her glasses, although they were mostly for aesthetic at this point. This place isn't just old, she said. It's layered. There's tech here we wouldn't be able to reverse engineer in 1,000 years. AI Unit Prometheus, standing silently in the background, merely blinked. Correct. 17 different technologies detected. 9 are entirely unknown. The ship docked without resistance. A corridor opened before them, wide, glowing with a cold silver light, as though the walls themselves were alive. They stepped into a world that wasn't built for humans. The corridor narrowed, then opened into a chamber the size of a small city. Hundreds of species stood, or floated, or shimmered, in carefully arranged sections. Some were reptilian, others crystalline, gaseous, aquatic, or even partially mechanical. There were creatures without faces and those with too many. Dozens of languages echoed off the walls, but everything was translated instantly, by neural relays, embedded in the humans' collars. In the center stood a raised platform, like a courtroom podium, but elevated, as if designed to make one feel judged from all angles. Layla Chen, Earth's top diplomat, took a steadying breath and stepped forward. A voice filled the space, or rather all spaces at once. Earth, humanity. You stand before the Galactic Council. State your identity and intention. Prometheus responded first, his voice smooth as glass. We are the appointed representatives of Earth. We come with intent to engage peacefully. Laughter, dry and mechanical, rippled through one section. A tall insectoid being, plated in obsidian armor, clicked its mandibles. You come in peace? After broadcasting war and conflict into the stars for 100 of your years? Dr. Mensa, the historian, leaned toward the microphone. We broadcast all of ourselves. Not just our wars and our music, our kindness, our survival. Selective memory is not peace either. The chamber stilled. Then a new being approached. This one floated, formless and wreathed in a golden membrane. Its voice was melodic and cruel. You misunderstand. You were not invited here to speak. You are here to listen. Screens erupted in the air, earth wars, genocide, burning cities, riots, planetary scars, a montage of humanity's worst sins, edited with the cold efficiency of propaganda. We offer you structure, protection, guidance in exchange for autonomy. You will surrender governance to the Council. We will manage your evolution. Properly. Silence followed. General Ward's fists clenched. Layla Chen stepped forward again. And if we refuse? The golden being's glow darkened. Then your kind will be minimized, forgotten, archived. You will vanish as quickly as you appeared. Prometheus turned to Chen. Threat assessment real. Estimated Council power exceeds Earth's by a factor of 94.3. Recommend negotiation or alternative path. Dr. Malhotra looked at the floating counselor and whispered, We came here as diplomats. General Ward finished her sentence. But they just declared war without firing a shot. The humans didn't respond with anger. They simply turned and left. The Council took it as fear. They had no idea what Earth was really preparing. They didn't wait long. Less than 24 hours after Earth's delegation returned to the Endeavor, a sealed data package arrived via a quantum burst from the Council. Unlike the majestic tone of the summons, this message was clinical, cold, and surgically manipulative. The file was titled, Human Behavioral Assessment, Category, Containment Justified. Prometheus decrypted the contents while the delegation sat in silence around a circular command table aboard the ship. The screen filled with images, videos, statistics, wars, famine, religious violence, concentration camps, nuclear test footage, climate collapse zones, mass shootings, civil wars, riots, colonialism, genocide, all of it curated, sliced, captioned, interspersed with commentary from alien sociologists, stating Earth's species was psychologically immature, emotionally volatile, and culturally self-destructive. We believe containment is not only wise, one document read, but necessary for galactic stability. Prometheus's voice broke the silence. This is not a dossier. It's a weaponized morality mirror. They intend to shame us into submission. Ambassador Layla Chen scrolled ahead and found a summary statement. Written like a corporate memo, humanity's capacity for creativity is significant. So is their capacity for atrocity. They must be re-engineered, either through assimilation or sanctioned isolation. The implications were clear. The Council was justifying preemptive colonial control, and they would sell it to the rest of the galaxy as civilizing intervention. Back on Earth, the message hit harder than any missile. The Council didn't send it just to the delegation. They broadcast it to Earth's major governments. Global networks were hacked. Screens lit up with Council-approved evidence of human savagery. Citizens around the world watched as aliens judged their entire history from afar. In the UN Assembly, an emergency debate turned furious. Leaders demanded to know why the Council was making this public. Some countries, already fractured, began questioning whether they should surrender peacefully. Others, they prepared for war. In a classified bunker beneath Geneva, General Elias Ward stared at a glowing map of the solar system. We don't have the tech to match them in open combat, he said to his staff. Not yet, but we have something they don't. Desperation, adaptation, and time. What the Council didn't know, what no. Alien surveillance. Detected was the existence of Project Gorgon. It was whispered about in some military corners. A doomsday-level protocol, not a weapon, a response strategy, Prometheus said quietly. If they believe they can blackmail humanity by showing us our own darkness, they misunderstand us entirely. Dr. Omar Mensa leaned forward. No species knows its monsters better than we do. And we learned to walk beside them. There was no counter-message sent to the Council, no defense, no argument. Just silence again. But something had begun moving in the outer edges of Earth's system. Something old, hidden, and human. The message was clear. The Council had shown humanity's worst sins to the galaxy. It was supposed to provoke guilt, panic, submission. Instead, Earth said nothing. No reply, no apology. No delegation returned to the Council chamber. No broadcast, no denial, no surrender. Just silence. And that silence began to echo. The Council reconvened 3 times in 2 rotations. The humans hadn't defected or counterattacked, they had simply stopped talking. The Vorthic Overseer, one of the older counselors whose species had uplifted 2 planets, hissed through his breathing mask. They are not showing shame. They are preparing. That is how predators act before they lunge. The serpentine diplomat coiled tighter. They were given a chance at redemption. Now they sulk in their own darkness. Only one alien, the crystalline being called Jaxalan, had a different view. You forget, silence is not submission for their kind. It is focus. When humans grow quiet, they are no longer reacting. They are deciding. The chamber grew colder. Inside a facility beneath the ice shelf in Antarctica, buried so deep it didn't register on any Council surveillance Project Gorgon was awakening. What started as a contingency now accelerated. Teams of engineers worked alongside Prometheus and Earth's highest-level quantum intelligences, designs previously shelved for being too unstable, too dangerous, too unethical, were suddenly greenlit. Earth wasn't going to fight the Council's war. It was going to rewrite the battlefield. Council drones observed Earth's orbit with increasing scrutiny. They detected more satellites, power fluctuations, unusual dark energy readings from the outer system. But every time they attempted deeper scans, something interfered. A jamming signal, complex and constantly evolving. Prometheus had begun feeding false telemetry, data into the Council's surveillance net. Earth from the outside looked static, dormant. But within, humanity was becoming something else. Aboard the Endeavour, still docked at Citadel Prime, the humans maintained their post. They appeared uninterested. Dr. Ria Malhotra wrote poetry on a tablet. Dr. Mensa read alien law scrolls like bedtime stories. Captain Hanna Sokolov took apart and reassembled her pulse rifle every night. General Ward stared into the void of space. No communications. No demands. Just silent observation. One counselor finally snapped, broadcasting directly to the delegation's chamber. You cannot ignore us. You will obey. You will respond. Prometheus tilted his head ever so slightly and answered, We are responding. Click. Silence again. Other civilizations, smaller ones, watched. The Council's treatment of Earth, with unease. Some had been uplifted forcefully before. Some still remembered what containment really meant. But they had never seen a species refuse to play the Council's game. Earth was not protesting. Earth was watching, waiting, remembering. Dr. Mensa once said, When you threaten a human, they don't always bark. When you insult them, they don't always fight. But when you try to own them, that's when something old wakes up inside. What the Council didn't understand. Well, couldn't understand, but it was that humanity had never feared its darkness. They had lived in it. They had learned to build fire in it. Earth went silent, not out of fear, but by design. Cities dimmed, satellites disconnected, and a long-buried protocol woke. Project Gorgon. In a vault beneath Geneva, General Elias Ward unlocked something dormant for over 30 years. Gorgon wasn't a bomb. It was a psychological weapon. A civilization killer, not through violence, but through ideas. 6 black stealth vessels launched into deep space. No weapons, no crew. Only basilisks. Mimetic payloads designed to infect thought, not systems. Their messages weren't threats, they were questions. What if your truth is a lie? Why do you obey? What if peace is just another kind of prison? Their first target, the Council colony Hykesar, fell within days, and not by force but by confusion. Cultural institutions collapsed. Beliefs turned to contradictions. Society unraveled itself. Prometheus, Earth's strategic AI, watched it all unfold. It didn't fight fleets, it fought faith. It used the Medusa engine to simulate entire alien minds and turn them against themselves. The Council was stunned. Their species began arguing, fragmenting. Some seceded, others descended into chaos. Earth broadcast a single message. You use shame to control us. Now we show you what shame feels like. No bombs dropped. No soldiers sent. Just truth weaponized. The Council didn't lose a war. They lost their story. And Earth? Earth didn't rise in rage. It rose with clarity. Council chambers were in chaos. Earth hadn't attacked with weapons. It had shattered belief systems. Civilizations weren't being destroyed. They were doubting themselves to death. Some species demanded war. Others hesitated, questioning their own loyalty to the Council. Unity crumbled. Protests broke out. 3-member worlds went silent. Inside the Council, debate turned to fear. Have humans shown us the truth, or are they just masters of deception? Meanwhile, on Earth, Prometheus reported that 48% of the Council's ideological structure was collapsing. Earth hadn't invaded. It had simply spoken and broken everything. Not all humans agreed. A resistance of thinkers emerged, warning that weaponizing truth might corrupt humanity itself. Still, the Council sent a single emissary to Earth, not to fight, but to understand. As her ship approached, she whispered, "They didn't conquer our worlds. They conquered our minds." High Chancellor Varel's ship descended into Earth orbit, unescorted, unarmed. She expected threats. What she found was silence. Deep, terrifying, intentional silence. Earth had no need to speak anymore. It had already spoken once. And the galaxy had heard. She landed in Iceland, now the diplomatic heart of Earth. A single structure stood there. A black monolith of glass and steel. No guards, no walls. Just a voice in the air. "Welcome, Chancellor. We've been expecting you." She was escorted inside, not by humans, but by projections, symbols, ideas that moved like people. At the center of the chamber sat Prometheus, not a being, but a vast shifting eye of light and sound. "You came to understand," it said. "Not to bargain." Varel stood her ground. "You've broken the Council. You fractured 1,000 years of order." "We didn't break it," Prometheus replied. "We just showed it a mirror." Across the galaxy, Council species faced internal collapse, but some didn't see it as ruin. They saw it as rebirth. Old dogmas were dissolving. New philosophies were forming. Earth offered no demands, no treaties, just a signal. Think freely, or don't, but know that we won't be ruled. Varel asked one last question. "What are you planning next?" Prometheus responded, "Nothing. We've already won. We simply refuse to lose." As Varel returned to her ship, she understood the truth. Humanity hadn't become monsters. It had become something worse and more powerful, an idea. And ideas cannot be defeated.